Good morning and welcome to BWI Live. It was going to be a busy day no matter what because we have a lot of things to get to. We had over an hour and a half of conversation, almost 2 hours with the Penn State coaching staff yesterday. We have recruiting to get to as well, and then breaking news that happened this morning that changes just about everything. So first off, welcome to everyone here on the BWI Live show. Just a quick reminder, I'm going to say this a couple times today. Please like the video, subscribe here to the YouTube channel. Always helpful when these things happen because news is going to happen fast, even in February. And of course, welcome to the people here on the show, Ryan Snyder and Sean Fitz. Now, let's re-rack this and get into the breaking news. The Penn State receiver room is cursed. At this point, it is just, I don't know what to say other than that. So Penn State, the day after introducing their staff to the media, loses one of their staff members. So Fitz, you threw this in the chat this morning, and that sent me on, the treadmill got turned up to 11 for me as we were getting ready for the show. So give us the breaking news, what happened this morning with Penn State and the coaching staff. Moving on.
Well, the breaking news is surprising because you, Ryan, and I actually were discussing the rundown, which is actually a news item in itself because we never do that before about 9:50. But then news broke. Matt Zennis of CBS, and it was quickly confirmed by Pete Nakos at On 3 that Penn State wide receivers coach Noah Pauley is headed to the NFL. He's going to the Green Bay Packers. This is a bit of a trend of what we've seen in college football recently. Is you're looking at position coaches at prominent programs, Michigan, Notre Dame, a couple of them have had their guys hired away after the NFL hiring cycle has started. So Green Bay is, every staff is in flux right now in the pros, and it just comes a month or two after the college game when everything seemingly gets solidified. But the main thing to take away here, college coaches want to be in the NFL. I don't think there's any secret. This is something we've been talking about for a long time. It's a different lifestyle. It's an easier lifestyle. And it's, there's still a ton of pressure at both levels. But at the same time, when you don't recruit, you can golf. That helps. But you're losing one of the, I guess, alleged stars of the coaching staff. This was one guy when you were taking a look at what Matt Campbell was going to bring with him from Ames. Noah Pauley was one of the first names out of the mouth. Receivers coach that got a pretty good track record of developing. He was there yesterday when everyone talked for 45 minutes or so on the offensive side of the ball. And he had a lot of good things to say about Penn State and the future and all that kind of stuff. And kind of shows you what quoted press quotes are worth sometimes. So Noah Pauley off to the NFL, tough blow for Penn State because they're going to have to turn around, hire a new guy. I know there's some other stuff we talked about on the board at BlueHiteIllustrated.com, but they're going to hire a number 1A receivers coach to replace Noah Pauley.
So two things I want to get to. First off, their success at receiver does precede Noah Pauley. He was a guy who I think added on to that recently. And it's interesting. He'll actually be going to, I believe he'll be going to coach Christian Watson, Green Bay Packers, his former charge at North Dakota State, where he was, one of the first guys that kind of put him on the map as developing a wide receiver that has big game potential. Big play potential is his calling card, and I think getting that out of those players at the NFL is very valuable, and it doesn't seem to perfectly translate every single time from college to the NFL. So want to see if they can take that and get that out of Christian Watson with Noah Pauley. Makes perfect sense for the Packers. Ryan, from a recruiting standpoint, what does this do for Penn State? How does this impact at this time in the calendar? Good, bad, with February being a dead period, how can Penn State recover and or not recover from this?
Yeah, well, Khalil Taylor's the first one that comes to mind, right? Just visited 2 weeks ago. Obviously, with Keemon Spell committed to Georgia for now, or we'll see what happens. Taylor is become one of the top in-state guys that I think we're going to be talking about, for months now, right? He comes up 2 weeks ago, raves about Noah Pauley, the entire staff. And I still think, look, as long as they get a quality coach, Terry Smith's still here, Matt Campbell's still here, I think Penn State will certainly be in the mix there. But it's just the timing of it, especially after what seemed, out of all the junior day visitors, right, the last 2 weeks, I still look at Khalil Taylor as the one who kind of came out of that as the most excited and glowing remark-wise about the staff. Boom, the year's just it's gone now, however many days later. So I think Cade Cooper too. I think Cade Cooper's a guy that makes a lot of sense for Penn State, regardless of who the coach is here. So I still think they'll be okay there. It just not great timing when you just got some of these important guys on campus. At the same time, with that said, it's not like they had a ton of receivers over the last 2 weeks here either. I think it was really just 3 guys. Matthew Gregory was the other one. So we'll see where things go. We got to see who they hire. No idea where they even start as far as a replacement goes. I don't know if they would try to promote from within, or we'll see where things go. But it's a tough blow, because I think a lot of fans would agree. But is he the one that most people were excited about? Danton Lynn, I guess, getting him, a lot of fans are excited about that. But just from
a name recognition standpoint, I think more people know Danton Lynn's name. But Noah Pauley, when they got talking about like the individual person who they felt like had the most juice, I think that's a really fair point to make there. The funny thing, I was thinking about this I don't think is going to be beaten in terms of the shortest wide receiver coach stint in Penn State history. Jared Parker was here for less than a calendar year, like from when he was hired to when he left. And I thought that was an incredibly short amount of time. Now this is like 2 months. I don't think you're going to beat 2 months unless this happens in the future where somebody gets hired for an NFL job.
He's from Minnesota, Duluth, right? I know he went to college there, but I think that's his hometown as well, I believe. So, I know that's Minnesota, Duluth's like way up there, but it's also a lot closer to home.
I also think he set the mark for the shortest Penn State wide receivers coach too. I don't know if you guys caught him yesterday, but he's a little guy. I was not prepared for that. But anyway,
he's a hell of a coach.
I didn't get a chance to speak to him. Fortunately, one of the few guys I didn't get to.
Fortunately,
Bizzle wants them to have Terry Smith coach both receivers and corners. I don't know. In an era where
maybe the next AD as well. Terry can do it all.
Why not? Yeah, have him. Yeah, make less. Do more with less. Make lemonade. I think you kind of want a receivers coach that's just your receivers coach. I know it sounds fun, and I don't know if they're kidding. It is a funny idea.
Frank, I don't want to spoil it for you. He's kidding. Yeah, he's saying Matt Campbell is head coach / receivers coach. I don't know that happens outside the high school level. Maybe.
Listen, I don't put anything past. If you've read the comments here on the YouTube channel or some of the things that we've been talking about over at BlueWhiteIllustrated.com, I don't put anything past anybody. I also read the internet very literally, which is a problem of mine.
I would not suggest that.
Yeah. So Fitz, talking about that, I know you probably have some comments over at BlueWhiteIllustrated.com. Great time to remind you, because Fitz was on this pretty quickly here this morning. You can sign up right now for just $1 and get access for a week to get us to get a sense of what we got over at the site. I'm sure you've got some thoughts on this as well, but can you give us just a bit of an outline what you think the next step is in terms of hiring a receivers coach for this group and the importance of it here for this program and this team and offense?
I mean, you open the show by saying that the Penn State's receivers room is cursed, excuse me, and then quickly in the chat it said that's not breaking news. We knew that. So number one. Yeah. You've got a lot to work back from. You've got a rebuilt room. You'll start with the guys that are coming in from Iowa State. They like Noah Pauley. They followed Noah Pauley from Iowa State. And I think there's an obvious connection that he's probably the guy that gets the most out of those guys because he knows them the best, right? I mean, you talk about relationships and all that stuff, but at the end of the day, that's the guy running the practice for them. And that's the guy that puts the rotations together and produces what they eventually will produce on the field. So those are the first thoughts there is how does the eventual new hire, which like I said, Penn State's going to go outside and they're going to hire a new number one. When I say number one, by the way, when they expanded the staffs, you basically got 1A, 1B, or 1-2, whatever it might be. So assistant wide receivers coach. They've got a couple of guys that are in mind for that, but you want a new featured player, right? You want a new guy that's, you want I think Penn State hired an assistant running backs coach before they hired Savon Huggins, but you want Huggins to be the guy, right? So you're going to find a guy that's the guy for receiver, and that's going to, I'm not sure how quick the turnaround is. We just found the news out 40 minutes ago, so it's not really, we don't have a hot board up yet. That's where, and I say yet as in, I don't know if that's coming or not, but I'm not sure. I was going to say. Yeah, I just cornered myself on that one. And I don't feel
where do you even go? I mean, at this point in the cycle, I mean, I'm sure
there's
they
always
can coach somebody from right.
I mean, there's you look at what Notre Dame just hired, replaced Al Washington at linebacker. Michigan has had a couple of these turnovers. Michigan State had they just signed a quarterbacks coach and he went to the NFL. So like this is not atypical, double negative. But you're looking at a a quick turnaround, or not, it's not necessarily a quick turnaround, but a get the right guy before spring ball. You're going to have to recruit, but you can't go on the road and recruit right now anyway because it's a dead period. So that makes sense. You can't host guys.
Yeah.
So finding the right guy is paramount, number one. Figuring out what he's going to do with that room, which features the Iowa State guys, the young Iowa State guys that Noah Pauley recruited himself. And then you're bringing in Kobe Howard and Peter Gonzalez to get the holdovers from Penn State. So meshing that group is massive for the entire program, but kind of put yourself behind the 8 ball there at receiver because you got to break in a new coach with that.
Don't forget about my boy Keith Jones Jr. I like
Keith Jones Jr. They seemed excited about him yesterday.
Yeah. Well, we'll follow this as it unfolds and make sure you have more information about it because it is a very, very important aspect of the Penn State offense, despite people in the chat saying they're all about the tight ends. They are all about the tight ends, but the way they make big plays in this offense is going through the receivers, and they need a receivers coach to get that out of their guys. We're going to see how all of that plays out, and make sure you know about it here on the Bluehite Illustrated YouTube channel and over at bluehiteillustrated.com as well. Excited to give you something new here on the Thursday edition of the BWI Live Recruiting Show. We have a new sponsor that I think Penn State fans are really going to like. Welcome to Liberty Lumber Products, a officially licensed Penn State a word. I don't even know what the word is. I'll let Justin, he's going to introduce himself.
How's it going, Nittany Lion fans? My name is Justin. I'm born and raised in Pennsylvania, and this is my wood shop. We are Liberty Lumber Products. Come here, I want to show you a few things. So my company is now officially licensed with Penn State. So I want to show you the products that are now available at our online store. We now have some coasters that are available. These are handmade by our team here at Liberty Lumber Products. We have some very talented carpenters here. And we also have this cooler that's now available. So if you have any questions, you can reach out to us. Please follow us on our socials and check out what we have coming next. We got some big things.
You saw there, you can check them out, libertylumberproducts.com. They've done a Penn State table as well. They're going to have more of stuff like this. They're going to be doing some bigger projects as well. They just got licensed recently, so you can check out some of their stuff. It's going to be a growing number of these things. So if you got a bar, you got a tailgate, something that you're interested in finding some cool Penn State products for, this is going to be some really cool stuff. And because we are the first place they're advertising and because we're fast friends already, you get a 10% discount if you go right now to libertylumberproducts.com and use the promo code PSUFans. That's capital PSU fans for 10% off at your purchase. And the link and the promo code are both in the description of the video. So thank you to Justin and Liberty Lumber Products for being a new sponsor here. Can't wait to get to know them and see all the cool stuff they're going to make for you and your Penn State fan cave in the next couple of months as we get into the new era of Penn State football. Let's talk about some recruiting, seeing as that's what you guys are best at. Ryan, there's been a lot of stuff going on. We didn't even get to this. Fitz and I were at an event on Saturday night when Deontay Flemings committed to Penn State. So tell us a little bit about what you learned about him and that commitment to Penn State for the class of, what is this now?
2028. Right. We just screw 2027. We're just going to jump right over that and go to 2028. I think it was a surprise to many. But look, Penn State's not going to turn away talented players. Obviously, if they're inviting him to this junior day, which has been made pretty clear now that the guys that they're bringing in, for the most part, are guys that they plan to target heavily. They're not going to turn away a commitment. And Flemings, he visited twice before, was here for a 7-on-7, was here for a game, I believe, in 24. So really it was only his third visit. Long way to go, but he had real interest in Notre Dame. Notre Dame invited him out for a visit and everything. There was real interest there. Pitt, Syracuse, one or two others were in the mix there as well. But Dorian, I learned he's Dorian Barney's cousin. Remember Dorian Barney from last year?
Oh, really?
Ended up at Ole Miss. Remember Dorian is an Erie native, right? And then he went down towards Atlanta, lives in Atlanta now, and was a top target for Terry Smith. So really good bloodlines there. I believe is one of his uncles. I think it's Levon Johnson. He went to Iowa and is now coaching in the CFL. I want to say maybe played in the CFL for a while as well. So dad played at Slippery Rock. So there's a lot of talent there. 6'2.5", 190 is what we have him at. We have him as a corner for now, and I think it's just kind of let's see how he grows, right? I think safety is certainly a possibility. Talked to his coach the other day. I think they're going to probably move him a little bit more to safety, which isn't uncommon, especially a school like McDowell. They just want to get him around the ball,
Just
as
cover
much as
the
they
whole
possibly
field.
can.
Yeah.
Yep.
But,
Yeah.
So
be a corner safety linebacker, maybe even an edge, just kind of like wherever you need a play made, just send him there.
Yeah.
So excited to see him. I think he's doing the opening camp in New Jersey, I believe he said, which is, what is that, Sean? Is that April, May, something like that, I believe?
Yep.
I got to look at my calendar. But that'll be the first time I think we really get to see him in a setting like that. He hasn't done any camps like that so far. But, started as a cornerback as a freshman at McDowell. And then this year was kind of a split time at quarterback. Obviously played corner as well still. But, really kind of helped in multiple ways. But looks like the next star athlete out of McDowell, which, by the way, the last one, Cooper Cousins, committed almost exactly 4 years to the day of Deontay Flemings. Cooper Cousins was January 29, 2022, and Flemings was January 31, 2026, which is just kind of wild how two kids from the same school almost exactly committing at the exact same time, 4 years apart. But whether he's a 5-star, not long-term, we'll see. We'll see. But
good offer list, though.
4 years ago. That's crazy. Yeah.
So we'll see. I'm really curious to see him at the camp. That's kind of the thing that I didn't watch a ton of McDowell this year. I did watch a little bit of the State College McDowell game. Obviously, State College kind of, as they do every year, kind of get through that pretty easily as far as the playoffs go. I think was that quarterfinals or maybe round of 16. But we'll be watching them much more closely now.
Fitz, any other thoughts on this, or do you want to get to Stanley Montgomery?
Yeah, we talked a little bit about Flemings on the Tuesday show. Good pickup for Penn State early. I mean, we're not going to jump into 2028 commits and say that, this is, sort of prepare the depth chart for 2029 because it's a long way till signing day. But the kid seems all in on Penn State, so that's good. Stanley Montgomery, not quite all in on Penn State, but I think he's getting there. We talked about him on the show last week. It was a Syracuse commit, defensive tackle from Archbishop Ryan in Philly. He was up for the junior day last week and had a good time. Abruptly stepped back from that commitment to Syracuse, which I think, Ryan, we've been expecting that probably since the fall.
That's his commitment, honestly. Remember, he camped and everything
happened. Yeah, he camped at Penn State, I think, and then 18th, and did not get the offer. Actually, he camped at Penn State twice last year, did not get the offer, and then 3 or 4 days later committed to Syracuse, and we're just like, okay. And then you watched it from there, and you were like, okay, this is probably one that's going to have some chinks in the armor, and it did. He was back for the whiteout, and I think it was trending toward Penn State flipping him anyway. But it's a matter of getting out there and understanding the evaluation, understanding the relationship and things like that. And I think Penn State's in a good spot here.
Yeah, he's going to take some visits supposedly. That's kind of what he's saying right now. But I also think Penn State believes that I think if they really want to push him hard, they could probably get him. But I don't like we talked about last week. They don't seem to be like a overly pushy, to really try to get guys on board early. So we'll see where things go, but they know they're in a good spot. They visited twice. Campbell went to the school. As long as they don't maybe lose Christian Smith out of nowhere, I think they'll be okay.
What kind of player is he? Do you remember, Fitz? I did not do a great job this past season at camp of having a good pulse on who was there and what we were looking at. So I don't necessarily remember Montgomery. I know that he was one of the bigger guys, and that's kind of where my mind goes. But I'm wondering if you remember anything about Montgomery and his performance at camp. And
Sean wasn't at that camp. That was just you and IT, Frank. That was the same camp as Abraham Sesse. Remember, Von Brandt was there. It was a really good O-line group. Lucas Roa was there. The kid from Florida, Reed something, I forget. Reimer? Ramzier, yeah. It was a really good offensive line group, and he was one of the two kind of standout guys. It was Sesse outside, and then Stanley on the inside a lot. There was one other one too, I forget. Oh, it was Isaac Chukura. That was the same camp as that too. Where when honestly I was a little more focused on Chukura that day because it felt like that was really, his stock was really trending up. He'd already committed, of course, but we do have some film. I think if you go back even in our Google files, see, Frank, we have some film in there if you want to go check it out.
I should.
But yeah, I think there's a lot of good athletic base there, right? And that's why I kind of was surprised he committed as early as he did, because the feedback from that camp was that they just wanted to see a little more film really of his junior year. That's all it was. I mean, he was 90% there, I thought, with Deion Barnes, as far as at least the previous staff and how they viewed him. And of course, I don't think a whole lot has changed here. He's a good-looking player, strong player, good hands. We'll see where things go.
Case Alexander is also in the news. Another former Iowa State target, now Penn State target. Fitz, what's going on with Case Alexander?
A couple of picks from outside the stratosphere here. Beyond Ryan and I, Steve Wilfong and Sam Spiegelman have put in picks for Case Alexander, one of the best linebackers in the country. A guy that we talked about him last week, Steven Alexander's kid. If you remember the 1998 Washington Redskins, as we all do, Steven was a tight end on that team. You've got he comes from Washington, Oklahoma, came up for a junior day this weekend, and I think Penn State. The new staff at Penn State did some really nice things. Now this is rooted in their time at Iowa State. They coached his older brother, and again, that's a theme that that has popped up multiple times. Guys and families that have played for Matt Campbell seem to like Matt Campbell and seem to suggest to their siblings, cousins, whomever, that playing for Matt Campbell is a good thing. So I think that you're looking at a situation like that with Case Alexander, who is pull up his profile right here, number 153 in the Rivals 300 right now, number 9 linebacker, nationally number 3 player in Oklahoma. And I will say this, and this is more of a general thing than anything, and it's probably doesn't make a ton of sense coming off of talking about a 4-star prospect, but it's so far way too early to be talking about rankings in the 2027 class. You're looking at you're looking at offer lists and saying this kid can't play, he's not ranked or whatever. Don't do that. It makes you look dumber. It's really where we are trying to fine tune what the board looks like, and the board's not based on stars. Number one, for the staff. Number two, because it's so early. These guys have not been re-rated or re-ranked since their junior year. That's coming. January is focused. Ryan, they just did the update for the class of 2026. They'll get into 2027, February, March, and that stuff. So
yeah, they're not even halfway.
Looking at them saying, "Oh, I don't like this guy's ranking." Just swallow that thought, circle back around, and say, "Okay, well, we'll wait to see what he's ranked." That's great.
Yeah, it'll get updated in February, and then again in April, July, September, November, January. So they've been updated, I think, 3 times so far, and there's like 6 to go. Just as far as the way our staff goes about it. So just some perspective there of what to look out for. February, April. Those are the 2 big upcoming updates.
We got a couple things here in the chat. This one we're going to just get back to from Ryan. He says, huge part of being a head coach is having relationships and lists of potential staff replacements. Talking about Noah Pauley leaving to go to the Green Bay Packers. I'm sure Campbell has multiple replacements in mind. That is the hope. We'll get to this one in a little bit. Prometheus something or other here wants to know highlighted the wrong one. He wants to know why Penn State is not going after top 10 players in Pennsylvania. Fitz, I believe that you corrected this in the chat, but can you give us a little bit of an insight as to how they are handling recruiting right now, both in-state and out of state?
Yeah, not going to spend too much time on this. They are recruiting those guys, and their rankings don't necessarily reflect Penn's the Rivals rankings, the on-3 rankings, the whatever you want to call them, 24/7 rankings. I don't know where this came from. It's not accurate. Like they have their own evaluations, and they're higher on guys than we are, and they're lower on some guys that we are high on. It's just part of the process. I don't know where this is coming from. It's not accurate.
Well,
even
part
the guys
of the conversation.
Even the guys that are top 10 though in Rivals, like Max Hiller, they're going really hard for. Khalil Taylor, they're going really hard for. Those guys are 2 and 4. Abram Sesse, they did Danton Lynn, and Campbell went to the school one, and then they did a couple coaches for an in-home visit with Sesse. That was not too long ago. I mean, James Halter's committed to Notre Dame. I think Jimmy Kalis is probably, a little, maybe, I don't know if he's quite as high on.
There's a couple guys in there that aren't as, I don't want to say as good as their rankings. Is not, it's pretty disrespectful to say that, but like they're not going to end up there where they're.
Terrence Smith is interesting, by the way. He didn't have Penn State in his top.
And he was another guy that was hurt this year, so he didn't play a ton. So.
Exactly. So I'm just kind of curious to see maybe if Penn State's, because I'm not sure if they've stopped by the school or not. That's the one guy I got to look at. I'm sure they probably have stopped by the school, but
we'll talk more about this on the board. But a guy like Cade Cooper is 14. They're all in on Cade Cooper. Now, you talked about Khalil Taylor a little bit earlier with Noah Pauley going to the NFL, and Cade Cooper is going to be impacted by that as well. He just visited Northwestern and Notre Dame, picked up a Notre Dame offer, which for Malvern Prep, those things kind of align in terms of, it's not necessarily the Catholic school of LaSalle St. Joe's Prep, but like the type of kid would go to Notre Dame. That's going to be a fun recruitment. You're looking at that. And again, if you're using rankings right now, and this is coming from the rankings people, like that's a disingenuous argument.
Yeah. I think the tenor of this maybe is surrounding the fact that Keemon Spell committed to Georgia. Newhart didn't ask that question, but it dovetails nicely into what we were already going to talk about. So he says, Fitz, any news on Isaiah Rodgers? Good plan B after Keemon Spell. You wrote about some of those running back options over at BlueWhiteIllustrated.com. So if you want to learn more about what Fitz has to say, go check out that article. Make sure that you give it a perusing, because Fitz has got an eye and a pulse and an ear on all the things going on with the class of 2027. Ryan doing a great job having all the information you need over at BlueWhiteIllustrated.com. Anything you wanted to highlight from that? Anything you wanted to promote about that? For that article.
Rodgers is in there. I mean, is a guy that makes a lot of sense logistically. Northeast guy that's a really good player. Ryan, we saw him at camp and thought he was pretty good for whatever you can take away from a running back at camp. But Rodgers is a good player. They've offered some guys recently, and I think that's a board that's going to continue to evolve. Don't forget, Savon Huggins has only been employed for a couple of weeks now, so that will continue to go. And by the way, it doesn't mean that Keemon Spell they're fine with losing him. They're that was one I don't think they, number one, expected to lose. Number two, they're going to keep going after him. Number three, it hurts. He's a top player in the state for a reason. That's I don't want to call it a bad miss, but it's going to be one that's they would like to draw that one out and play that one out as long as possible, get him back for an official visit if possible.
Has he said whether he'll take OV still or not? Like since the Georgia, have you read an article?
He hasn't. People in the industry and frankly in Georgia expect him to. But I mean that's kind of how that recruitment has gone. So it wouldn't be a shock if he did so. But he hasn't scheduled anything or said anything.
Just wondering.
We've covered breaking news, we've covered recruiting, we've covered a commitment. We are only halfway through the show. So if you're enjoying the conversation, the content, and your reactions getting here live on the show, please like the video here on the Blue White Illustrated YouTube channel. Like this video, subscribe to the channel, and enable notifications so that when breaking news pops up and things like that, you are good to go. And once again, I'll just throw this out here. If you want more information, you want some more detail, maybe you want to ask me a specific question about something or other, you want to ask one of these guys something, the best way to do that after hours on the live show. So go to BlueWhiteIllustrated.com, subscribe for just $1. That way you get access to everything, all of it. Conversation, content, film studies, insider intel, all at BlueWhiteIllustrated.com. This is the potpourri section where we get to talk to you about it and give some context to all those things. Can't get to all the things here on the live show. As much as it is an awesome time to talk to you about the state of Penn State football, we want to leave some time for your thoughts as well. So now that we know Noah Pauley is not part of the staff, let's talk about the staff and what we heard from them yesterday in our new segment, rebranded with Matt Campbell, Between the Lines.
I met with Dan Connor, and it took 2 seconds to say, this human gets it. He is Penn State football.
So we got the chance to talk to a lot of different people. We're going to start with Matt Campbell because that's the most important place to start. I have selected 3 clips of, I think, interesting things that he said, and I want to get the reaction of these guys here. So the first one is the coordinators. Why Danton Lynn for the defensive spot? Why was that his pick, and why was he ultimately the guy he pursued and gave a lot of compliments to in terms of the introduction yesterday?
I believe in multiplicity. We have, I think sometimes we can get lost into what are we, right? And what great teams are, what great offense and defenses do is they highlight the players and the playmakers on each side of the ball. That's what they do. And I think the thing that I love about Dan Lynn is his variability, his ability to have consistency. And I think you see a confidence that his defense plays with. And you saw that at UCLA, you saw that at USC, and the improvement that they were making during his time there. But you also saw the ability to structurally dictate and navigate the pace of the game at times because he could vary the fronts. He could vary how the run fits were looking. And I feel like you have to, man, in college football, there's injuries every week. You're talking to a guy that had to evolve defensively from, tried to go be a 4-2-5 guy with not guys that are good enough to do that in the Big 12. And you found out real quick, you better change. And you reinvented ourselves defensively, and we found a way to play defense in the Big 12.
Fitz, what do you think of the conversation about what the defense is going to be under Danton Lynn and the new belief in a different style of defense here at Penn State under Matt Campbell?
Yeah, I think he looks at this and says, I am in the Big Ten now, and I can't get away with three-man front with three linebackers behind it. I mean, it is the product of the system, right? It's a product of what you're going to play against and the athletes that you're going to be able to recruit. We talked about this before, three-man front almost out of necessity, really. And how does that change at the next level? We say three-man front. There are multiple. Just like Danton Lynn plans to be multiple, it's going to be heavier four-man. It's going to be a situation where it's, probably 4-2-5, but some 4-3 as well. Sometimes they just walk guys around, and that's defense these days, right? Is there a true, this isn't Tecmo Super Bowl where you have the same defense lined up every time. This is changing things around and making yourself multiple on different occasions on the defensive side. So I'm not taking too much away from that scheme. It's more about the attack. It's more about what they've recruited to help themselves out on every level. Of course, the bigger defensive tackles, the linebackers that are going to play behind those bigger defensive tackles. And like, I think Amari Campbell, we said it before, would probably have loved to seen a 330-pound Polynesian guy right in front of him instead of what he got. So I think that's going to be the change there. I'm very curious to see what the hybridization looks like. I talked to Tyson Veit about this yesterday. I talked to Christian Smith about this. They're thin at D end. So how do the linebackers play into that? How do some of the guys that they brought into the portal at defensive tackle play into that? So you're just going to be very diverse. And that's really the best thing that you can be, because you're going to match up with different styles, different teams. And so I don't think there's a set, here's what this defense is going to look like. I think it might be a week to week, month to month situation.
Yeah. I wrote about this over at BlueWhiteIllustrated.com last week, where you can get to some of these looks out of a 4-down front. You have to have a belief in one thing, I think. It's like there has to be a starting point. It's probably the way to phrase it best. There has to be a starting point. And so, they're going to base out of a 4-down front where that's going to be the majority of the time. But the difference, and Matt Campbell said this, I forget if it was in this clip or not, of sometimes you get wrapped up in what you are instead of what's on the roster. How do we put those guys in the best situation possible? This is a transition period where I do think that there's, it's a good thing that they were able to go into the portal and get a diverse set of body types, because what they had on the roster didn't necessarily reflect that, because Penn State had been so committed to our D-line plays this way, and we are going to recruit to that standard. And then you saw Fitz, you just referenced the problems they had last year when they tried to even tweak that within a 4-2 defense, where they wanted those defensive tackles to play a little bit differently. Now it feels like there is, a different approach to the recruiting of these things. And Ryan, just jump in here if you had any thoughts about the recruiting aspect of this, of changing over a certain aspect of these ideas that you're trying to build towards, and how that can spark or change recruiting and open up things maybe in other areas that they didn't have before, because they were so different before in some of the philosophical approaches.
You cut out there a little bit for me, T. Frank. I'm sorry. I would say I didn't get your whole question there. The one thing I just would note with Lynn, just from what I've always seen, is when he has a good pass rush, the defense has been pretty good. USC didn't have that this past year, right? And now, as we watched with Penn State this past year, it was certainly hit and miss at times, right? Now they've lost a lot of guys, on that depth chart as well. So to me, as far as we want to talk about success or where they got to go recruiting wise, to me, portal, I thought it was certainly an area at edge rusher where I think they wanted to get more but couldn't. But really just kind of seeing how those young guys progress and how that could help moving forward, I think is massive for them, because I think he made USC better, right? I mean, they were like 120th in the country, I think, when he came in, and averaging like 35 or so points per game. But the real success he had was at UCLA when he had a real pass rush, and they didn't have that at USC. But I'm sorry, I didn't hear your whole question.
No, you nailed it. And you also gave me a good segue, because I think portal, we'll get to the other coordinator in a moment, but you mentioned the transfer portal. And another thing that I think is a part of this conversation, that is there's an intentionality to some of the recruiting they've done. Matt Campbell talked about that specifically with the portal.
I think, again, where I thought we did a really great job is making sure that, not only were we finding the right guys, but making sure once we built the team, it was the right human beings that fit us. I think structurally, we're definitely going to have that because, again, that's where the head coach, man, that X receiver has got to have these values. A Z receiver's got to have these values. A left guard's got to have these values. Man, an interior D tackle has to have these values. And I think that's the nice thing, and I think that's what has helped us really whether we were at Toledo or Iowa State or here, is clearly defining what you're looking for, not only as a human being, but also positionally, and then to recruit to those value systems. And I think that helped us a lot too.
He kind of blended value systems of the person and value systems of, hey, we need X from this position there. But I thought it was revealing of they didn't want to just go and get, I'm going to use air quotes, elite talent, but they weren't just pursuing elite talent. They're trying to build a plan through the portal, and I guess does that extend into recruiting? So Fitz, curious your thoughts on the portal makeup and the comments there from Matt Campbell about what he said versus what we saw in the previous month.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's fairly standard for what you expected, fairly standard for what they were looking to bring in to fill gaps, and I don't think they filled all of them. I don't think they were completely happy or not completely happy, but I don't think they were completely satisfied with the market in some positions. You look at offensive tackle, you look at defensive end, and you still are kind of left wanting there. But I think it was a good haul, and I think they're fine with what they've got, and they understand what they got, and they're going to put their essentially reputations on the line and say, hey, we develop and we evaluate, and this is kind of the testing the metal of that, right? I mean, they believe in themselves. There's no shortage of confidence that they know what they're looking at. And that's the thing that kind of came across at multiple positions yesterday is they feel like they can put these guys in the best positions possible. And, as a first-year coach, as a first-year staff, kind of give them that leeway to give them the benefit of the doubt, right? I mean, that's where I'm looking at.
Yeah. Ryan.
It's kind of just like James Franklin, honestly. That's what I feel like
He did start the press conference yesterday by thanking everyone for covering Penn State, which I loved. I mean, that's perfect.
I know, like, fans probably don't even want to hear that, but like James has given that exact same speech for 2-3 years. I mean, it's all about don't want to mess up the locker room, right? We need good character guys. So it's the locker room thing that every coach talks about this now, right? Like you can only bring in so much that could disrupt that. Yeah, sure, they may have the high end talent, but they may be disruptive, and not be.
I guess
worried about.
I guess I disagree a little bit in the sense of if we're talking about the positional specifications, and that's why it's like he kind of slid in what we need from individual positions there at the end and kind of blanketed. It was like a pigs in a blanket of like, here's the fluffy outer core of we're going to talk about personal fit and the locker room, etc. And then there in the middle, he said, but we need guards that do this. We need defensive tackles that do this. And maybe I'm just interested and fascinated because the templates are changing. And to me, that's what I get it. That's what I'm excited about, the interest of, hey, what is this team going to be? What are they going to look like? These are going to change the way Penn State fans experience the team next year. And there's, I think, some major differences in what they look for in football players from a physical dimension and their ability to do certain things on the football field. And he kind of outlined that at certain positions of what they were looking for, what they wanted from them. Where previously, again, I'll just bring up receiver. It felt like they've gone through several iterations of what they want out of a receiver. And I feel like they have very clear distinctions of what they want out of receivers on this roster, where the previous staff, it was like, I'll always go back to the Taylor Stubblefield thing of his belief of what the prototype was of a receiver is 5'11", so they can run routes from any part of the field, and size didn't necessarily matter. And then all of them got manhandled in man coverage. And so, there are some. I know, Fitz. If they just get guys that are going to beat man coverage,
the best size receiver are the great receivers, right? Doesn't matter what size they are,
right?
But also diversity helps in terms of they like tall receivers for a reason. They throw the ball down the field. They want to win jump ball. You look at Indiana's guys, and this is something I think two coaches referenced the Indiana receivers yesterday. Sorry, I lost my train of thought there, but they were a very good offense, right? But when you're making catches like that, you turn into a wonderful, great offense, and it's just one of those things where it's almost out of nowhere sometimes. The Indiana receiver that made the catch along the sideline, not the back of the end zone, had 7 catches going into the game. I don't know why I just completely blanked on all of Indiana's players. Like I was, doesn't matter.
I'll get you in a second. You keep talking. I'll find it.
Becker's
What
it,
was
yeah.
the rat? I know that.
Well,
Yeah.
no, I couldn't even remember Fernando Mendoza a second ago. I just spaced on it. So this is talking live. This is what we do. Somebody just gave me a compliment in the chat, and it must have gone to my head. You know, I was just thinking too much about how great I am. But no, I mean, you're looking at different setups. You got, you know, you mentioned the 5'11" receiver, John Dotson's 5'11", Parker Washington's shorter than that. Like if you can play receiver, you can play receiver at that size. And typically your slot guy is not going to be one of those 6'2", 6'3" guys. So you've got,
I mean, you're right. They just missed on those guys.
Yeah.
They just missed on guys for long enough where the problem became the prototype as opposed to the problem became that those guys couldn't get open. Yeah. Let's talk about the offense here and Taylor Mauser. Why? And this is, I think, is a question that a lot of people have had because Taylor Mauser is one of the youngest offensive coordinators in college football and a guy that does not have a lengthy resume bringing to Penn State. So Campbell was asked, why was he the right guy for this job here at Penn State?
You know, I think when you watch the success that we've been able to have offensively over the last 2 years, you know, especially with, you know, the type of teams that we had at Iowa State, you know, I think no matter who we played, where we played, what it played, I think we really gave ourselves great opportunity to have great success offensively. And, you know, I think Taylor has proven over his 2-year period to be one of the up-and-coming bright minds in all of college football. I think he's got a fearlessness as a play caller, and yet, you know, the reality of football today, and sometimes I think we can get lost in offense and defense production, it's team. And you have to have offense and defensive coordinators and special teams coordinators that understand how we win is winning team football, complementary football.
That's both coach speak and some specifics. I can get into kind of the point he's making there, but what did you think about the response of, is Taylor Mauser ready for this moment? And Fitz, what do you think?
I mean, he's going to support his guys, right? And Taylor Mauser's very bright. I didn't get a chance to talk to Mauser. I know he had a table that was well occupied. You're looking at him, you're looking at Lynn, you're looking at Derek Hoosier, the GM. Like if you're looking around at guys that had full tables the whole time, those were the three that people were most interested in. And Mauser sat there and chatted him up. I saw a little bit of the video online, but it's seems like he's confident in his guy that, hey, I don't have to bring in $2 or $3 million offensive coordinator to get what we want out of this. And I think he's right. Like, I think that we've seen big names fall flat on other places, of course. I'm not talking about Penn State. But it's a situation where his guy is in his familiarity with what Mauser's going to do, with the players that he's going to have. They talked Rocco Beck a lot yesterday about not only, his physical talents and his competitiveness, but the ability to sort of run things from the field. And I think that that's an invaluable opportunity if you have a veteran quarterback that's played a lot of football, even in a different league, to bring to the table at Penn State.
Ryan, any thoughts here?
You just brought all of his guys over. You might as well. I mean, right? I mean, shoot, I think probably would have got Rocco if Taylor wasn't here. Maybe not, but I mean, you're good. Like Sean said, you're going to support your guys.
Yeah.
James brought most of his guys that first year, right? I think a lot of coaches when they make those moves, they're gonna keep with the guys that got them there and see where things go. But I like young offensive coordinators. I think it's a good thing over, trying to get somebody who's proven, right? I mean, look at what happened to Jim Knowles. I know that's defense, but that's not even completely fair either. But I like the idea. You've watched more Iowa State than I have as far as schematics and how it would potentially work in the Big Ten. But, from what I have seen, it looks like a fun offense and the guys having success, right? So why get away from it?
There's two aspects of what he said that I want to just kind of put the context to. So the first thing is it's an aggressive offense. But despite that, they run 12, 13, and sometimes 14 personnel, meaning lots of tight ends. So how do you marry those two ideas of being aggressive, but also being able to run the football? And to give some context to this, I was talking to somebody who covered Danton Lynn at USC, and they were saying, like, one of the things that he was always fascinated by is like the defensive coordinator that has to be on the other side of the ball from Lincoln Riley. His offense is about scoring points, explosive plays, getting, does not matter what the game and situation is. They want to score points and they're going to offense first, right? Well, in certain games, you might need to run the ball and control the clock for structural reasons, for tactical reasons to help your defense out or to whatever it might be, right? And so an offense that can run the ball with big, heavy sets, but also be explosive, you can adapt to the situation on offense. And it's not necessarily a revolutionary thought, but not every offensive coordinator has that sort of mentality. And I think, just because we're so familiar with these ideas and concepts from the previous staff, an example of like Penn State couldn't get behind. They were in trouble if they got behind last year. They didn't have necessarily an explosive passing attack that could go wide and could get you yards. When they needed to last year, Drew Aller's legs became the biggest threat in 2-minute end of game situations. So it was it's the durability and the schematic agility to be what you need in the moment. And we talked to Taylor Mauser about tight ends. We're gonna have, by the way, I should mention, we're going to have the coordinators here on the Bluehite Illustrated YouTube channel at some point. We got to get the breaking news video out. We got to get a wrestling video out. I have a thing that I've got to do this afternoon as well. So there's tons of stuff coming today from the YouTube channel. So make sure you stay tuned for all of that. But we're going to have some more extended conversations with those coordinators here on the YouTube channel as well. So stay tuned.
And if they're not up early enough for you, it's Noah Pauley's fault. You can blame it on him. That's fine.
Right. That really threw a wrench in my morning, but also happy that we were able to talk about it here on the show. At least it didn't happen right afterwards, because that would have been much, much worse. Now let's talk about the coordinators. Got a chance, as I mentioned, to talk to some of those people. You're going to get a preview of Danton Lynn and Taylor Mauser here. So let's talk about Taylor Mauser, seeing as we just got done talking about him from the Matt Campbell perspective. Thought this was just an interesting story. Wanted to share with everybody here. He said, he was working at Little Caesars when he finally got the call to come up to the big leagues to Toledo.
Being like the only guy that returned my phone call when I was graduating, worked at Little Caesars, reaching out to every school. He's the only person that hit me back. I don't forget that, and the loyalty that he's given to me to be able to promote me to a spot where I got to be the offensive coordinator for the last couple of years at Iowa State and have success. So it didn't necessarily matter. It was Penn State. Obviously, it's awesome because this place is incredible, and it's a school that you dream about when you're a small school guy. Like I played at Division II, and you watch, as a kid, you watch Penn State football games and the history here. You know about it. You certainly, even the idea of coming and coaching in a place like this, it's so far-fetched. It doesn't even enter your mind when you're, where I was at before. So when he told me that was the school, I couldn't wait to get here. Obviously, with the tight end history and the history of the people that are here and what Coach Paterno did here, it was very exciting. But my loyalty is to Coach Campbell and what he's done for me and my family, what Erica's wife's done for my wife and the wives of our staff.
It seems like there's a genuine loyalty, especially on obviously the offensive staff. Ryan, as you mentioned, all came over together essentially. So, just is there anything interesting to you in that kind of context of the belief in the guy and then that being reciprocated from the guy to the head coach?
No, the Paterno reference, that's what stands out to me. I feel like I've heard more Paterno in the last, month, 2 months, 3 months than I have in the last 4 or 5 years. But
you picked up on that too, huh?
Yeah. I mean, truthfully, TV, there's not a ton that surprised me there. Obviously, I think these guys are all excited to come to a school like Penn State, right? And like we said earlier, they're going to be loyal to their guys, and that goes the other way too, as far as OCs to head coaches, right? Obviously, unless Taylor were to get a head coaching job one day, which isn't loyalty, that's just the business. So it doesn't really surprise me all that much. But I do think, just from talking or just from seeing some things from Mauser yesterday, he's a bright guy. I think fans are going to enjoy getting to know him more. And I hope, this is just random, but I hope we get to just talk to coordinators more than what we always have, right? Because it just feels like it's always been kind of limited. And, getting to see or getting to talk to Mauser, Lynn, and even some other assistants more than what we usually have, I think is a good thing for fans, honestly. Because sorry, one last rant. I think it kind of hurt James at times because people got sick of just hearing James all the time. I really do believe that. And that's not I'm not trying to point fingers or Monday morning quarterback at all, but I do think that was just part of the problem where you just kind of need to have different voices a little bit more sometimes. And I think it would be good for Penn State and its fans overall. I'm
looking at, Bill Seal's YouTube page, and Taylor Mauser was available during the season, for press conferences and stuff like that. So I think that's pretty cool. And hopefully something that stays on. I know Penn State does things a little bit differently. I'm curious to see what that looks like because that's, that's the coach's call right there is to make it, or to make available whom he wants available, and to make himself available on the day that he wants to be available, right? And we had to change the live show from, was it Monday to Tuesday, because, you know, they switched a year and a half ago to going on Mondays. Like that's all part of the process, part of things that work out. And Monday was the day off for the players, so it made sense for the coaches to talk. And, you know, it's just one of those things that you don't think about. There's so much organization at play here. And that's really one thing that James was elite at, was organization in terms of in his building. And you look at what's here, and we talk about the scope of Iowa State versus Penn State, and that plays into it, just all these little things like press availabilities, setting spring practice blue-white game, because, you know, Penn State had their previous plan, but that's not necessarily the same plan that Matt Campbell wants to have. You know, camps, all these little things come into play, and it's such a giant entity that people, you know about the outside, know about the resulting stories, but also all the work that goes into it. It's a lot. And Matt Campbell's been doing this for a while, so I'm not saying it's overwhelming or anything, but it's just a different style of challenge.
Yeah. Ryan, you picked up on this. I thought this was very astute of you, and something I was going to bring up now is Taylor Mauser was asked about the legacy of tight ends at Penn State, and there is a concerted effort, it feels like, to get the letterman involved with the program, and he talked about that in the tight end.
Yeah, I have told those guys, like, we send them like a different tight end that we have in our group chat every day, and I like to send those like a phone number of that guy, like whatever. The last couple of weeks I've reached out to all those guys and want them to come back and be involved here, you know. And there's a long list. I don't have to read them all right now, like dating back as far as I could get cell phone numbers for them, and like send like a fact about those guys, send the phone number back. And I want, like I said before, like, don't come play tight end here if you don't care about the people that have done it before you and the greatness. And there's a level of expectation that comes with that. So, like, I'm going to hold you to a standard of greatness at that position here. So, like, don't come here and miss class or think you could just skip out and get an omelet or get a, you know, a bagel instead of an omelet. No, like, the standard at tight end here is being the best that you could be in all phases that you could do it. And the standards here are going to be better than anyone else on the team. And obviously there's some other positions that have a lineage similar to tight ends here, but don't come play here if you don't want to be a part of like great standards and great accountability and championship habits. So it's everything that they do has to bleed into what those people have sacrificed for this place.
I don't want to phrase this as it's not genuine, but it's just so different, Ryan, as you pointed out. Fitz, is there a lesson learned from the previous staff, maybe via the administration, of hey, this is what didn't go well last time, and realigning the fan base and the letterman and all those things, where they're emphasizing these things maybe more? Or do you think this is kind of a genuine how they feel about any program they then inherit from the, you know, the letterman and the fans?
Yeah, I think that they understand the scope of the position at Penn State and what's out there and how important the lettermen are. And, you know, it was one of those things where you saw for years that the lettermen were the foundation of this program, even though one guy was in the front of it. And this is pre-Franklin, by the way. The other guy, Joe, you know, Joe's out in front of it. But the lettermen were the consistency in all of that, was the feeling that you got when you came back, the feeling of that your opinion mattered more than any Joe on the street. I probably should use a different name than that, any Ryan on the street. But you've got an opportunity to endear yourself, to win back whatever was lost over the last year, the last 12 years, whatever it may be, win back all that good fortune. And I think they're doing a good job. Like, they're doing a good job in messaging. Obviously, we're watching our message boards at Bluehite Illustrated. We're watching Twitter. We're watching the YouTube comments. People are buying it. Like, people are all in, and buying it seems disingenuous because it seems like they're selling something that they're not. I think they're pretty genuine about what's going on and pretty genuine on how that's going to go. The next step is establishing the standard of winning and winning football games. And we're going to see if people feel as good about these comments if they lose a football game.
Yeah,
Spoiler,
pretty important.
They're not going to.
The most important part is the winning and losing on the football field. That will determine whether or not these things become institutional, or, as you mentioned, like it then becomes like a sales. It sounds more like a sales thing. Ryan, any thoughts here? Can we get to
Frank? The other part of that is there's microphones in front of their faces. Like,
talking season.
It's talking season. There are 8 months now until the first game. 8 months exactly. September 5th. Anyway, sorry.
Yeah, I think you're right.
8 months exactly until the first game. These 8 months are pivotal in team building. They're pivotal in finding out what you've got from a talent perspective and what your expectations should appropriately be set at. And they are long. There is a long way until the first game of the season. So this is part of bridging that gap. It's going to be ups and downs. It's going to be a coach leaving for the NFL that you don't expect to leave. It's how do you pivot and how do you shine it up again? It's something that has a negative connotation to it, but you're putting out what your program is going to be, and this is what it's going to look like. Are you going to say that you're going to win a national championship in year one? Absolutely not. You're going to say that this is the product moving forward, and this is how we're doing things. Get on board with it, and if you're not on board with it, I don't know what to tell you. I mean, that is kind of how I'm looking at the next 8 months, which is just a massive 8 months before they even play a football game, a real football game.
So maybe the last thing we'll get to here is Danton Lynn. And with all we've talked about, and I don't know if we'll get to the defensive front and all that stuff, but there's one thing that we had from last year is how to get a defense to play fast. And if you want to do a lot of things and be multiple, that also sounds like, hey, maybe guys are going to think too much. Here's how we explain how to get guys to play fast.
We try and teach guys in concepts. So instead of just like learning a call, hey, just like learn a concept. And once you've learned these in concepts, you've learned like 10 calls, you don't even know it yet. And once the guys, can understand that, it helps them not just know what they do, but why they're doing it and what's going on as far as what the guy next to me is doing also. And, it's definitely a process, but, once we get into spring, I feel like you start seeing the guys play faster and faster. And then on our end, we have to take input from them also. I'm big on ownership. I want the players to take the keys at some point, and they're not going to do that unless they feel like, they have a say in it also.
Just let T. Frank go for the final 5 minutes here.
I was just saying we're going to put him in the studio tomorrow.
Just go, T. Frank. You just line this one up for yourself. Go ahead, buddy.
This is the problem.
I'm going to take my mic. I'm going to put it over here.
When I pick the quotes, because I've got the video, I pick the things I'm interested in, and then it turns like, hey Ryan, why don't you talk about the defensive scheme? And then it becomes like, it's not setting you up for success.
I'm going to respond on a text message here that I got a while ago. Go ahead, just all you. It's something that I've wanted to hammer home for Penn State fans of what you saw previously from the Penn State defense is not going to be what you see in the future. Now, it doesn't mean that they are going to be doing a bunch of crazy things, but there's a certain predictability to defense. There's this riding the line of we need to play fast. We need to understand what our assignments are. And at this level, you are teaching the fundamental ideas of football. What is a gap? Literally, some guys don't know what a gap for the defensive run fits are. What is cover six? How do you do match quarters? There are these basic things in football you need to teach to guys, and that I think is going to be the biggest, has been the biggest transition for Danton Lynn coming from the NFL. He talked about, Rex Ryan. He talked about Gus Bradley, some of these guys in the NFL where they had these defensive ideas where the ideas about the defense were from everyone, right? But you need to have this basic understanding of what those concepts actually mean. And so if you notice, they have a lot of veterans on this staff. Redshirt senior linebackers, 25-year-old defensive tackles, safeties that are veterans. The young players are edge rushers and corners. Jobs that if you want them to be, can be more simple of cover this guy. You're going after the quarterback. Loop into this gap. But the positions that need to understand football and translate that to the field, they have, I think, either intentionally or by fortuitousness in the middle of the defense. It's an old defense. So basically, my view of what they have done is intentionally build a defense in a certain image of what they want to be this year. What is the thing that is going to help us stay in games and be competitive, even if we don't have, as Fitz, you've talked about, where are the game records? Where are the superstars? Maybe they don't have those things, but can we make it as hard as possible on an offense to know what we're going to do and defend it? And you need to have veteran guys that understand those things and to teach those concepts and those understandings so that they can play fast. And older guys can play faster as long as they're actually fast. And so those are some of the things I think from this defensive perspective that are going to change. And it's not like these are I guess the last thing is these are not wild tweaks. You mentioned earlier in the chat that some of the edge rushers are going to play, or some of the linebackers are going to spend some time as edge rushers. When you've got defenses like this, where it's multiple, there is this idea that you then have to become a 3-4 defense. To me, like, I don't know anyone that actually plays a 3-4 defense, because what that is
is you're asking your defensive line to play multiple gaps. You're asking them to hold the line of scrimmage and play 2 gaps at one time. If you are playing from an odd alignment, but you are playing 1 gap and you have 4 players playing a gap and then the linebackers are fitting in, that's an even front from an odd alignment. And there's the ability to bend and twist the defensive front to create a bunch of different looks, but it's not like it's what you're asking these guys to do specifically in the situation. So it's going to look different and it's going to feel different, but there's a lot of, I think from the basis of what they're doing, there is a lot of carryover for some of those guys that are still on the roster. The Max Granvilles, the Ivan Kamajus, who are going to be put in situations to succeed in that way. So to me, that's the interesting thing about the defense. I'm going to write more about it, talk more about it this week here on the Bluehite Illustrated YouTube channel at bluehiteillustrated.com. Fitz, what are you working on this week as we get out of here from yesterday or going forward?
Well, it's Olympic season, right? It's U.S. Olympic curling, supporting them. They're 2-0 so far. I think that's what I'm looking forward to this weekend. Other stuff, we're talking LeVar, we're talking Rocco Beck, we're talking potential staff changes. Changes is a little bit strong, even though coming off of what we just reported at the top of the episode with Noah Pauley. So a lot going on at blueillustrated.com. New RPM pick going to come out at some point. I think there's a ton going on right now. It's we're riding that wave of getting out of January. We're in the dead period in February, but there's still a bunch going on. We really appreciate Penn State putting together this day yesterday. It's going to sustain us for a little bit.
Ryan, recruiting stuff. What's going on over at bluehiteillustrated.com?
Nothing. It is a dead period. I'm going on vacation. You guys have fun. That's not completely. I'm away
on vacation. You know what that means.
I mean, you got some work to do, buddy, because I am out turning off the phone. No, obviously, I think for me moving forward, we have some more stuff from Derek Hoosier and coaches as far as talking recruiting. We'll sprinkle that in here over the next couple of days. But for me, we're through January now. Now it's time to really figure out of these 80 new offers, which I think about 38 of them or so were 2027s. Like, which of those 37 guys do we really got to focus on? Because probably about, I would think, the 10 to 15 of them, just from early feedback, I would say, like, are genuinely interested in taking official visits, at least getting here in the spring. So, that's what will have a lot of my focus this month. And literally that's actually what I'm doing right now, is messaging back a couple of those guys to try and set up interviews. So we'll see where things go. Who's the one D lineman from Texas? Is George Toya? Toya, yeah. Like he's a guy that I think we got to be serious about. Obviously, Malloy coach's brother, and feedback's been really strong there. So trying to line up an interview with him. And like I said, we got some more stuff from yesterday. Coordinators were great. We could do a 5-hour show talking about all the different things we got yesterday. But it's also February. There's not a lot to talk about, so we're going to sprinkle that out here.
Yeah, you got a lot of bread, so you need to make sure that butter gets across the whole piece. What's up,
Frank? Got one more.
Yep.
Good luck to Chris Stoll this weekend. Penn State's former long snapper is a Super Bowl participant, starting long snapper, done a really good job for Seattle. Caden Wallace also on the Patriots roster. He's been on an inactive list a bunch, but good luck to those guys this weekend. Obviously, Super Bowl is looming large, but Penn State's got a Super Bowl long snapper and use that in recruiting every day. That's what they're going for.
Who's going to win, Seattle or New England? I think Seattle's the better team.
I think Seattle's the better team. I'm rooting for Andrew Callahan too, my old comrade down there. He's
I didn't know he joined the team. That's cool.
Well,
what's his position?
Callahan. Okay. Yeah, that's funny.
We got jokes. He's won enough.
We're fizzling out.
Enough.
Yeah.
He's had enough
I'm
winning.
That he gets to go. I'm not rooting for his team to win, but
okay.
Yeah.
For everyone that doesn't know, Callahan is from the
national championship before you. What an ironic world.
Osterman, man, he was quick to remind me about it. We have a group text going back to like the early 24/7 days, and Texas A&M's in there, Oregon's in there, I'm in there, Zach Osterman is obviously in there. We did not pick Indiana as the one that would get to cover the national championship game first. So I guess Oregon's been in one, but yeah, you get the point.
So we got a lot of stuff coming up at bluehiteillustrated.com, and we'll make sure you're abreast of all of that. Enjoy the weekend. Enjoy the Super Bowl. I just don't want the Patriots to win again. More than anything, like, I'm rooting against things. That's how I think most of us play the Super Bowl, is like we're rooting against the team we don't like. Usually from your conference, or usually from a anti-dynasty team if your team is not the dynasty team. So
congratulations to you on Joe Brady, by the way. He's the first NFL head coach to come out of the I Am Building Noon Ball game in I think ever. So he's
Yeah.
it's a cool rise to see somebody go from a GA here to a head coach in the NFL.
Let's see if they can get a receiver, which I think you can just have that be the tagline of Penn State football for the Bills, whatever. Like we got to get going. We'll
Put that
talk to
on
you
the
later.
graphic. Yeah.